what kind of mistakes usually my students make during the classes. And it's related actually to past simple regular verbs like work it, plan it, play it, and all of these ed endings verbs. Lately, I was trying to innovate, let's say, to maybe bring some kind of videos just to show them the phonetics a little bit, because there is a kind of trick I said to them, or like a tip to pronounce easily the t, d, and ed pronunciation of the ending. So I would recommend my students to try to check those kind of videos, just like past simple regular verbs on YouTube. There are many tips how to pronounce that, and I was saying to them to take like a mirror and look at their mouths and check how to pronounce and how that sounds to them. It's like not played, it's like more like played, and that sound is stronger than the e between the other words. That's something that I'm trying to work with my students lately, especially in the basic levels, because if they don't correct that mistake, usually even in the C level, you have students saying play it.
Yeah, I have
that's very common.
Level that have the ed problem is what I call it.
Exactly, ed problem. Yeah.
I usually, what I tell them is kind of similar to you, but like I will show them, like, for example, played, and what I'll do is I'll say, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out the e and we're gonna pronounce it played. Right?
Exactly. Omit it.
And things like that. But the problem is, like with English, there are some where you do pronounce the ed ending, right? And
exactly, yeah.
Adjectives.
How do I know which?
They are always an issue. And I was thinking something related to that, Mia, because when you mentioned the past form, yeah, it is an issue at the lowest levels. But it is also an issue when you confuse what Caitlin said, like when you are like, no, this is not a verb. For example, when you said, I was drunk last night. Mm-hmm. So which one is the verb, And they say, well, drunk, are you sure about it? Be familiar with the part of the speech and be familiar also with the function. Because one thing is to be crystal clear that an adjective modifies a noun. But another, which is a little bit different, is but this is a participial which can be an adjective if it is used in a specific context. What I try to do, because they do have that mistake very, very fossilized, and what I try to do is that they see the verb to be as a linking verb, like a bridge between the person itself, the noun, the subject, and the characteristic, because the only thing that the verb to be is doing in that way, it is making a connection. It is not expressing action. So, and they got it like in that way, because then when you say, so this is passive voice, or it is an adjective, a participial working as an adjective, and they say,
okay.
No, this is passive voice because it is not a bridge.
For me, I think the most important thing that people don't do enough is read out loud, because, for example, I will have students who reach B1, B2, even C level, but their reading skills are really not there, right? Maybe they can, and it's because they don't take the time to read it out loud, and they say, well, if I'm reading out loud, how do I know if I'm pronouncing correctly? Well, maybe you don't necessarily, but we have this magical thing that's called the internet. And if you have a word where you're like, I'm not quite sure about this, you can put it in like a Google Translate, hit the little button, right? And it's maybe like a robotic accent, but it's going to give you a better idea of how to pronounce that word. For me, my challenge for all of my students from day number 1, while they're in the course with me, they should take 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You pick one random article every day about different topics and you read out loud. And it doesn't matter if you read one sentence. It doesn't matter if you read 2 paragraphs or if you read the whole article. That's going to help your pronunciation. It's going to help your fluency because you get used to like the rhythm of the language. And then you're also going to improve your confidence in the language. While you're doing things, because what do most of us have to do in English? We have to give things like presentations at work, right? And so
in front of a lot of people and etc.
Exactly. I do something very similar to that, and depending on the level, I give them a book.
Oh,
Like very basic one, depending on the level, of course. What I do is that I provide the book itself and an audiobook. Because, for example, is the same problem is what you mentioned, like, but how do I know that I'm doing correctly? Well, first, use the audiobook, stop the audiobook, and then do it, and then just do it. And they are like, I have never thought of that.
Pues creo que el primer error en la metodología de aprender el idioma, cuando intentan traducir, como que simplemente hay que partir y entender que no va a funcionar igual, porque cada idioma funciona distinto. No es porque la frase en español tiene 5 palabras que en francés va a tener 5 palabras. Tal vez alguna va a desaparecer por ahí. Entonces, ese sería el principal, yo creo, que en general bloquea siempre, siempre, siempre. Ni siquiera hables de gramática, pero entonces es el pretérito tal. No, ni siquiera. No vamos a pensarlo de esa forma, porque no vas a ser una persona que enseña el idioma gramaticalmente. Tú lo quieres para hablar. Y eso es algo que funciona mucho. Desde la sesión 1 es preguntarle el objetivo a las personas. Muchas veces el objetivo es para comunicar con alguna persona, algún ser querido, familia, o porque van a hacer estudios. Entonces, cuando les dices, no, lo que necesitas es comunicar, como que dicen, oh, sí, es verdad. O sea, como que con eso he notado que están mucho más abiertos a directamente ver cómo funciona el idioma y más bien ponerse en el switch de comunicación, aunque no sepa explicarlo. Desde un punto de vista práctico, lo que pasa mucho, sobre todo al principio cuando no saben mucho de fonética, es que leyendo, la E es un mito en francés. Si no tiene acento, si no tiene una consonante, no existe. O sea, es como si eso no está ahí, no la pronuncies. Siempre, la primera vez que lo lees, bueno, que alguien más lo está leyendo, noto que hacen ese error, pero si les dices eso no existe, ya como que lo agarran súper rápido.
Una ventaja del italiano para los hispanoparlantes es que mucho vocabulario está ganado, pero esto a veces puede ser una desventaja porque empezamos a hablar en itañolo. Es completamente normal. Intento aclarar súper bien los falsos amigos, que son palabras en italiano que se parecen al español, pero que significan otra cosa. Por ejemplo, el verbo salire significa subir, no significa salir. Hay que avisarles, estás hablando en 2 idiomas, ¿cuál quieres usar? Y otra que puede ser, yo me enfoco mucho en los primeros niveles con esto, porque si no se ve desde el principio, se arrastra y no se quita. Y es la concordancia entre el femenino, masculino, el plural y el singular. En italiano no se agrega una S para los plurales, se cambia la última letra. Por eso se escucha bonito el italiano, pero solo se escucha bonito cuando hay concordancia con todo, con artículo, sujeto, adjetivo, con todo.
Fíjate que ahí la historia es completamente diferente, porque el alemán esencialmente es un idioma muy estructurado. El alemán tiene las declinaciones, que es como un tipo de conjugación, pero en sustantivos, y esa estructura no la tenemos ni en español ni en inglés. Entonces yo lo que primero lo que pongo así, alma, cuerpo y corazón, es enseñarles la estructura del idioma para que les quede claro cómo es que se aplican las reglas gramaticales. Ya hablarlo es relativamente sencillo, porque lo que se lee es lo que se pronuncia, más o menos en un 95-97% de las veces lo que se lee es lo que se pronuncia. Entonces la pronunciación es muy similar, pero la gramática, la estructura del idioma, sí, ahí sí me enfoco con mucha energía. Con respecto a la pronunciación, para conocer, para familiarizarse con la cultura alemana, uno tiene que quitarse los lentes latinos para ponerse unos lentes alemanes, para poder familiarizarse y tener una bonita experiencia. Y en ese aspecto concreto yo les digo, ¿quieres hablar correctamente bien alemán? 2 pasos. 1, lee lo que se pronuncia, más o menos le vas a atinar. Y 2, habla con mucha seguridad. Cuando uno habla con esa extrema seguridad en uno mismo, el alemán suena mucho mejor.